common in all kinds of languages in and around, on and around the Philippines. Good. See? Okay, and who wants to take German? How do you derive perfect participles in German? Yeah?
We add the prefix and the E vowels change to U.
Right. So that's exactly correct. The verbs that are being given here. What we can say in a general way, we add a prefix, and there is habla. So there are two things. Good. So that concludes the first part. We'll go to the next part now. So what I thought I would, I mean, I think that I know what I'm going to talk about, I can tell you. What I want to look at now, that we're going to be getting more and more abstract as we go into this lecture, but we're going to look at how people, what we can think conceivably to be in the lexicon, how words get created and get stored into a mental lexicon, and different ways to describe what's going on in a mental lexicon. And I'll look at how these things can be described for a modern stage of a language, and how I'm going to go through two models. There are two basic models of the mental lexicon, and I'm going to look at how they can be used to describe language change, and how lexicon changes. So, in a naive view, what is in our mental lexicon? We can probably say, without lying too much, that the human brain has a way to store simple words and maybe also complex words. So, home is one concept, and homework is another concept that is probably stored and not derived all the time. There are possible words that are probably also somewhere, like eatable is completely possible to be derived by the morphology of English. It's just that edible already exists, so eatable is not allowed. But the potential words are in the lexicon by means probably of rules. And I'll talk about rules. Then there are new creation, neologisms, and they can be of two kinds. One that are created on the fly, we don't even know when we create them. But I remember, like, in Chicago, it's really hard to find a parking space, and we just parked our car and somebody came and was asking us if we're leaving, and like the people I was with, one of them just said, "Oh, you mean if I unpark?" No. And it was like a joke based on the fact that it's very hard to find a parking space. But I've never heard anyone else say unpark ever since. So it's like this creation that remains then and there. Specific jargons that remain to specific groups and are not understood outside of these groups. So I go to a festival, I remember, I must have told you. And Burning Man, people say all kinds of things, but outside of Burning Man, nobody understands. Like move, you don't know what I'm talking about. It's matter out of place, which is basically litter, and you're not supposed to litter. Garbage, okay? Don't throw garbage. This is what it says. Don't throw your garbage on the ground. But that's also a creation that remains for them and there and that specific group that knows about this whole thing. Then there are other creations that make it into the lexicon because a lot more people know about them and they're useful to a lot more people. So web and mail and things like that. So when we describe morphological processes, we want to know what kind of role they have for this for the lexicon. Morphological processes create new words, so or new forms. So they have a creative role, but they also have a descriptive role because by being aware of morphological processes, we can also enlist what kinds of forms, what kinds of classes are in the lexicon. So I've given you here examples where you would put two roots together to get a complex word, and put suffixes to get new forms, and put suffixes to get inflectional forms. Morphological processes have different amounts of span and applicability. And this is what goes with the productivity issue, which is a huge issue in morphology, because some morphological processes are more productive than others. And by productivity, what is meant is that they're applicable on very many words of the same class. Okay? And it's not the same as frequency. So if we look here at different kinds of nominal derivations in English, we find all these words ending in ist, which means practitioner of whatever the noun indicates. Then the agent of whatever verb indicates. And then all these adjectives ending in, which mean in current English the quality of having whatever. Now, ist is, I mean, you can stick it on whatever you like, and you will get a noun. So it's on more productive, and the same with agent, but the suffix id it's a Latin suffix, and it was a productive suffix in Latin. A lot of these words got borrowed into English together with the suffix, so we can see that there once was a suffix, but nowadays that suffix is as good as lexicalized with these words. It looks like it's part of these words. There is no point of segmenting it as a suffix because it no longer acts as it no longer produces new forms. So it's completely unproductive. It's fossilized. We can tell that it once was something that was active. So apart from applicability to great many words, there is the time dimension. of productivity, because it was productive at a certain point in time, and nowadays it's no longer productive. So when we say that something is productive, we have to say, is it now? Was it at some point? Is it moving somewhere? These things are productive now. We cannot make predictions about the future if they're going to remain as productive as they are today. And other issues that are related to the concept of productivity are how creative you are, and what do you do with analogy. Now, analogy is the process whereby you create new words on the model of existing words. And another problem that is huge in productivity studies, how do you measure productivity? What do you do? So if we start by creativity, we have those unconscious creations that you do create, and you're not even aware that you do them. You just do them, and then if you're a native speaker, nobody reacts. If you're not, people correct you and say, no, you can't say this. Well, but I just heard somebody say it. Oh, no, but you can't. And well, that's unfair. And then there is creativity that goes in the poetic license, where there's going to be like Harry Potter vocabulary here, because J.K. Rowling does a lot of these things. So it's a remember all, that's a ball that remembers. But you know, to say ball that remembers, that's boring. But when you say that I've got a remember all, then you create an atmosphere of magic. So that's a conscious creation. And as a writer, she goes into that. But between unconscious creations and conscious creations, the line is usually very blurred. And as soon as consciousness gets involved and becomes a factor for measurement, we go into a discussion that is not always like a very scientific discussion, because we have to define what consciousness is, and there we get into fairly muddy waters. But this creativity has to do a lot with awareness of what you're doing, what you want to say, the effect you want to have, and unconscious creations. I mean, you're still unconsciously, or I don't know, maybe you're not probably very aware that, oh, I can do this, but you have a bunch of devices at your disposal and you use them, and you use them always in order to create an effect of these things. There is a book that is fairly old right now, but it was written in the 90s by somebody called Rudy Keller. Right in here. And it's called The Invisible Hand. So one of the main insights he offers there. Did I grew it too fast? Okay, I'll pull it up again. One of the main insights he offers there is that when we talk, we try to kill several birds with one stone. We try to conform. We try to be part of a group. But at the same time, we try to impress. So things like this come with our conscious or unconscious effort to impress. So there is like always this conflict of trying to be understood and to be like everyone else, and at the same time to differ, so that people notice you. So there is more Harry Potter vocabulary, and again it goes under the creative license. You will use current vocabulary and analogy to create words that will have an effect. So between apparition and operate, you will have apparate, this is for driving. Divine and concentration will give a divination, and port key is something that will port you somewhere.